All right, everyone, welcome back. Ready for another deep dive. Today, we're tackling something, well, a little unexpected, maybe even a bit controversial.
Yeah, definitely going to be interesting.
We're looking at the appeal of exaggerated femininity in drag and cross-dressing. But here's the twist.
Specifically for straight men.
Exactly. So we're talking like the full glam, big hair, bold makeup, the whole 9 yards.
Right, the whole shebang. And well,
Uh,
it might seem a bit niche, even a little taboo, right?
For sure. But that's why we're diving into this academic paper, exploring the allure.
That's the one. The appeal of exaggerated feminine depiction in drag and cross-dressing for straight men. It's, well, it's pretty eye-opening.
Definitely makes you think. So before we get into the nitty-gritty, let's set the stage.
Yeah, good idea.
Mm-hmm.
I think to really get this, we got to understand the history. Drag and cross-dressing, they've been around, well, basically forever. Different cultures, different times, you name it.
Oh, totally. Like Shakespeare, right. All those men playing women's roles.
Exactly. And kabuki theater in Japan, too. They have this super stylized way of men portraying female characters.
It's amazing. I saw a performance once, and the artistry was just incredible.
Right. It's mind-blowing. And, over time, these traditions evolved, especially in Western culture. Drag really took off in the 20th century. Like, think Divine, RuPaul, all those icons pushing boundaries.
Yeah, for sure. But it's kind of interesting, even with all that history, there's still this, like, weird taboo around cross-dressing, especially for straight men.
Oh, absolutely. The paper actually dives into that.
Mm-hmm.
A big part of it is societal norms around masculinity.
So, like, those expectations of what a real man should be like.
Exactly. And they can be so rigid. Any deviation from that norm, it's almost like forbidden. And that creates this allure, this sense of like, ooh, I shouldn't be doing this.
The forbidden fruit. The taboo makes it more appealing.
Right. It's that sense of breaking the rules, stepping outside the everyday, doing something a little dangerous, a little rebellious.
Now, this is where things get interesting for me. Because it's not about sexual orientation, right? The paper's pretty clear on that. It's not about questioning someone's straightness.
No, not at all. It's more about artistic expression, maybe. A way to challenge those very gender norms we were just talking about.
So it's like saying, look, these ideas about what it means to be a man, they're not set in stone.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Pushing the boundaries, showing it's not black and white, it's a whole spectrum.
Okay, I'm starting to get this now. And, the paper mentions that for some straight men, this whole thing can be empowering.
Oh, yeah, definitely. And it's not just about challenging norms for the sake of it. For some men, embodying those traditionally feminine traits, even in an exaggerated way, it can help them access like a wider range of emotions.
Wait, hold on. You're saying putting on a wig and makeup can lead to a deeper understanding of yourself.
Think of it this way. In everyday life, men are often, pressured to suppress certain emotions. Sensitivity, vulnerability, that kind of stuff.
Oh, for sure.
But drag, it creates this space where those emotions can be explored, expressed without judgment. It's like a pressure valve release.
That's actually really insightful. So it's like drag gives you permission to be your full self without fitting into those like restrictive boxes.
Exactly. And that liberation, that can be incredibly empowering, especially for men who might feel stifled by those traditional expectations.
Wow, I'm having a lot of aha moments here.
Yeah.
So we've got the taboo, the rebellion, challenging norms, and now this self-discovery, empowerment. It's a lot to process.
And we're just getting started. We haven't even touched on like the psychology of escapism, the fantasy aspect, or the artistry involved in crafting those personas.
Wait, there's more. All right, I'm hooked. This is way more interesting than I initially thought.
Yeah, so much more to uncover. You mentioned escapism earlier, and that's a big part of this, right? I mean, these drag personas, they're like larger than life, all that glamour, the personalities. It's a total escape from the everyday, like the paper says.
It's funny you say that because I immediately think of RuPaul's Drag Race. Those transformations, the performances, it's all about that, isn't it?
Perfect example. Stepping into this fantasy world.
Yeah.
Right. Like hyper-reality, shedding those daily pressures. And it lets you explore different sides of beauty, identity, self-expression, all of it.
And it's not just throwing on a dress either. There's so much artistry in creating a drag persona. The makeup, wigs, costumes, it's a whole art form in itself.
Oh, 100%. The paper really highlights that, actually. For some straight men, it's like this. Appreciation for that artistry, putting in all that effort, like paying homage to the transformative power of femininity, you
I
know?
mean, I never thought about it that way. That's interesting. It's like saying, hey, there's beauty in these traditionally feminine elements, and I'm here for it.
Exactly. And remember, for men who've, grown up with those strict societal norms, expressing that appreciation openly might not be something they're comfortable with in everyday life. So drag gives them that safe space to explore those feelings.
Right. It ties back to what we were saying before about drag being a way to tap into those, like, suppressed emotions, desires, that kind of stuff.
Exactly. The paper even mentions Carl Jung's idea of the shadow self,
Hmm.
those unconscious parts of us we try to hide. Well, drag can be a way to bring those desires out, express them, but in a safe environment. No judgment.
So for some straight men, it's a way of exploring parts of themselves they might not be comfortable with otherwise.
Precisely. And it's not necessarily about, acting on those desires. It's more about acknowledging them, exploring them through this creative outlet.
Man, this is so complex. It's like peeling back layers of an onion. And there's this other thing I wanted to bring up. The paper talks about it too. This thrill of transgression. Like, isn't there
Mhm.
something exciting about defying expectations, especially when it's done in such a bold, creative way?
Oh, totally. There's this rebelliousness to it, this feeling of freedom, like breaking free from those norms. And drag, with how over the top it is, it really pushes those buttons.
I bet the audience reaction is a big part of that too. All the gasps, the cheers, the laughter
Mm.
fuels the performance.
Exactly. It's validation, right? Like,
Mhm.
look at me, I'm doing something daring, something different, and people are loving it.
Okay, so we've got escapism, artistry, the thrill of breaking the rules. But there's one more thing I want to touch on, something the paper mentions too. This undeniable confidence, charisma that often comes with drag. And I gotta say, from what I've seen, it's true.
Oh, it totally is. And that confidence, it's appealing no matter who you are, what your orientation is. It's owning your space, your uniqueness, radiating this energy of self-assurance.
Makes sense, right? If you're willing to step out of your comfort zone like that, embrace this larger than life persona, you gotta have some serious self acceptance going on.
Exactly. And that's what the paper points out too. Stepping into this bold, feminine persona, it can actually boost your confidence in other areas of life too, like a self-esteem injection.
It's like, hey, if I can rock this wig and heels and own the stage, I can handle anything life throws at me.
That's it. Pushing those boundaries of how you see yourself, realizing you're capable of way more than you thought.
No, I don't want to make it sound like everything about drag is super serious, psychological. We got to acknowledge the fun, the humor. It's a big part of it.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Drag is playful. It's embracing the absurdity of it all, the theatricality, the joy of transforming yourself, entertaining people. It's not always deep.
Sometimes it's just about having a good time, being outrageous, making people laugh.
Mm.
But I think it's time to shift gears a bit. Look at the bigger picture. How do these individual journeys connect to society as a whole? What kind of impact might they have on how we understand gender, identity, all of that? It's really striking how something as seemingly niche as drag and cross-dressing can lead to these big conversations about gender and identity.
It really shows how powerful art and self-expression can be, you know, to challenge the norms, make us question what we think we know. It's like holding up a funhouse mirror to society. Things might look distorted, but they reflect something real.
Okay, I like that. So let's zoom out a bit. How do these individual explorations, these personal journeys people are on, connect to that bigger picture of society?
Well, just think about the message these performances send, especially when it's straight men embracing this exaggerated femininity. It directly challenges those deep-rooted ideas we have about what's masculine versus feminine.
It's interesting because we often think of drag as this like over-the-top theatrical thing. But in a way, it's also really honest, vulnerable even.
You hit the nail on the head. It's about stripping away all that pretense, those expectations society puts on us, and then embracing your true self, even if that self is, flamboyant, outrageous, unexpected. And that takes guts, especially in a world that still clings to those outdated ideas about what it means to be a man.
So by embracing this exaggerated femininity, these men are kind of modeling a new way of being, a way of being authentic, being vulnerable. And that ripples outward, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Especially for younger generations who are still figuring themselves out. Seeing these expressions of gender fluidity, it's powerful. It's like saying, hey, you don't have to fit in. Be whoever you want to be.
It's like they're using glitter and glam to break down those societal barriers and make way for a world that's more inclusive, accepting of everyone,
That's definitely something to celebrate.
for sure.